Hey everybody, welcome to the Red Zone College Football Picks Week 10. This is Mike Gundy.
I'm a man!
Are you sure?
I think so.
And I'm Vampire Guy. This is it. This is Halloween week, and welcome to our little setup here. And we've got the old ball coach here. Hopefully he can keep it together for this show. So, all right.
Got the business in the front, party in the back, or as
That's right.
I like to say, the power eye in the front.
And I am the worst attempt ever at a vampire because I look horrible. This is my first time I've ever put Halloween makeup on or anything. So anyway, let's get started. We're not going to babble on for 20 minutes like we did last week before we get to picks. So we'll just start out with the AP Top 25.
I could go on a rant with
we could.
Newspaper.
Not going to let you, though. Not going to let you. All right, new AP Top 25 came out. Let's take a look at those. Alabama's number 1, Clemson, Notre Dame, LSU, no change. Michigan's at 5. Georgia at 6. Oklahoma's up to 7. Ohio State comes up from 11 to 8 when they didn't even play this week. That was kind of surprising. UCF is at 9. They move up one spot. Washington State jumps up to 10. Kentucky in there at 11. West Virginia, Florida, Penn State, Texas drops to 15. Utah, Houston in at 17. Utah State in at 18. Iowa, Fresno State, Mississippi State, Syracuse in at 22. Virginia, Boston College, and Texas A&M round out the top 25. So really, this doesn't mean a whole lot. On Tuesday, the college football playoff rankings are going to come out. That's what really matters. So this will be the last week that we talk about the AP Top 25. Yeah. And because the CFP rankings come out on Tuesday, that is after we shoot our videos. So after starting next week, we're just not going to place rankings like when you see on the bottom or anything because it won't matter. So we can't wait until after Tuesday. So anyway, that's about it. There were some decent games last week. Georgia beat Florida. A few others. We started out really well until
it's 3-0 to start
4-0 until Northwestern decided that they came to play ball and they beat Wisconsin.
I had just a string of games that just
crazy. Notre
Dame
in
a row that I lost out on.
Notre Dame was a 22-point favorite and they won by 22, so it's a push. You were I was 11-9-1. You were 12-8-1. Yeah. So hey, it's above 500, and that's all that really matters. So, okay. So that's about it with that. We're going to move on to picks this week, and as we get into those, we'll start talking a little bit about what the team did last week. But we'll try not to stay on any team too long, and we'll try to just get through this. The first one we're going to start out was Temple at UCF, and as of right now, it is almost 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening here Central Time, and there's still no spread on that game. So
I've got we checked it. You know, before we started, there's nothing.
Nothing. So obviously, I'm taking UCF to win.
Same here.
Okay. Yeah. Michigan State 3-point favorite at Maryland. Maryland is playing. Michigan State ends up beating Purdue. We picked that because we knew Purdue was going to have a hangover after the Ohio State win. No shocker that they lost to Michigan State. Now Michigan State gets to travel to Maryland. Maryland's pretty much a one-dimensional team. Yeah. They're taking care of business against the teams they're supposed to take care of business. Obviously, with this one, I think with 3 points, I have to take Michigan State in the points.
I am too. Michigan State quietly has the best rush defense in the country.
Okay.
And that's current and
that's Maryland's MO. They run the ball.
Well, Maryland is 9th in the country in rushing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll see teams that are good at defending the rush that go against teams that like to rush the ball. They tend to kind of keep them at bay a little bit. So Michigan State, I don't think they'll have any problem covering the 3 points.
Okay. Nebraska at Ohio State. This one's going to be at 11:30 on Fox. I think it's Central Time. Ohio State's a 21-point favorite. I don't know what to think about them. I mean, Nebraska's not very good. They beat Bethune-Cookman last week. That's their second win. Against those teams, they look like they're getting better.
Yeah.
And I know Ohio State's defense isn't very good, but it's still better than what they've been playing.
Yeah.
So, but 21 points, Ohio State's not been doing very well. I've got to
take this off. I can't hear anything.
If Nebraska can score points against Ohio State's defense, then we might not have. They might not be able to cover that, but it seems like with Ohio State every week, whatever I pick, they do the opposite.
Yeah.
But I think with Nebraska, I have to take Ohio State to cover.
Yeah, I am too. I think the Purdue loss is just kind of one of those fluke things, and we've seen. I don't know. Has there been another team besides Alabama that's been undefeated going into the playoffs yet? I mean, not saying that they're for sure going to make the playoffs, but
Clemson's still undefeated. Notre Dame's undefeated. So
I just mean in the past, like since the CFP has started. Has there been a team besides Alabama that's been
going into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Alabama was undefeated in 14 when Ohio State won.
Right. So there hasn't been any.
I'm just saying. Sure. I'd have to go back and look at the records.
I'm just saying. I think the Purdue loss was just kind of. Purdue's a really nice team. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong there, but I think it was just kind of one of those. Just bad losses, It was just one of those. Every team, every elite team seems to have a bad loss.
The year Ohio State lost or won the national championship in 2014, they lost the second game of the season to Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And they were awful. Their offensive line looked hideous.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of got it together after the fact, and they went on a run and they won out. And
Clemson lost last year, Georgia lost last year, Oklahoma lost last year. Both times Oklahoma's made the college football playoffs, they've lost a game, in October. But then November's kind of where you show the selection committee that.
The good thing for Ohio State is they've still got Michigan, and Michigan they keep winning. If they win this week against Penn State, they're going to be probably still ranked 5th.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there at 8 and you beat number 5, that's a boost, and you're more than likely going to be in that top 4.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Still have the Big Ten championship game. We don't know who that's going to be. Iowa lost again, so right now it's looking like Northwestern. So, which it's kind of ironic the way they started the season. So,
we started off the season talking about Northwestern being really good.
Yeah.
And then they lost a few games, and so we're like, well, I guess it's not going to be them.
And now they're in the running for the Big Ten West. So,
which is crazy. But anyway. Ohio State, I don't think they really have a problem. Nebraska seems to maybe be getting a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. But if they could pull off this win, that'd be a good one for Scott
I just don't
Frost,
think they do.
I don't think they do.
Coming off a bye week for Ohio State, I just don't see it happening.
So you got Ohio State covering?
Yes.
Okay. Iowa State 14.5 at Kansas. Kansas getting a big win against TCU by 1 point.
TCU's just
they're bad.
Falling into the gutter.
They're terrible. Yeah, they really are. As far as this one goes, 14.5 at Kansas. Yeah, I think Iowa State covers that.
I'm on the fence with it, though, because Kansas is getting better. Like, they just are. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's nuts and you can look back on when Kansas beat Texas a few years ago and say, well, what happened there? Why didn't they, get any confidence after that? But they've got a little bit of talent, like a sliver of talent.
Yeah.
So, and then Iowa State, they've kind of struggled. Like, they don't just put crazy numbers on the board.
But the teams they're beating is impressive. They just beat Texas Tech.
And they're a tough team. Yeah, they did. They beat them 40-31. They beat West Virginia 30-14. They beat Oklahoma State 48-42. But they lost to TCU. And that was at TCU. Kansas was at home. I don't know.
That was before TCU lost to Ohio State and really started going downhill, too.
Yeah. It's at Kansas.
And Iowa State was sluggish off the beginning of their first couple games because their first game got canceled, so that was a big deal for them. So.
Yeah. Who's playing quarterback? Purdy? Don't know if he really got hurt. I'll take Iowa State to cover. I wouldn't be surprised, though, and this isn't a cop-out, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas maybe scores some points and Iowa State has some trouble, because Kansas does have some talent on the defensive side.
They're ranked around 60th in defense. So.
Yeah, and they're giving up, they're giving up only 29 points a game. That's the national average, it seems like, under 30. So if you're holding teams to under 30, that's pretty good. But so I'll take Iowa State to win by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Louisville at Clemson.
I don't like it, but
Louisville at Clemson. Clemson's a 38-point favorite. Trevor Lawrence has looked great. They looked pretty solid this past weekend. They looked really good. So I think I'm taking Clemson to cover that one pretty easily.
ESPN has Louisville as a 0.8% chance to win. They have Clemson's 99.2% chance of winning.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been teams that I would like to look and see what the biggest upset has been, in college football. I'm not saying that Clemson would even get, because I think there's not a lot of teams out there that are worse than Louisville right now.
Right.
They're pretty bad.
Kansas would beat Louisville right now.
Of course. Yeah. Tennessee, Arkansas. I mean, there's tons of that would beat. So I've got
Clemson.
I've got Clemson to cover here.
Okay, next game we don't have a spread. Oklahoma State at Baylor. Oklahoma State coming off that huge win over Texas.
Big time.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'll just say this real quick. We're not going to harp on it, but Taylor Cornelius, everybody has been talking about him. Everybody's been talking about it's time to replace him. It's time to put in one of the freshmen at quarterback. And Mike Gundy, Coach Gundy, stuck with his guns.
I stuck with him.
Stuck with Taylor Cornelius. Good job there, Coach. Good job. It paid off. And I'll tell you what, he played lights out. He played really good. He looked like an elite level college quarterback, at least for that game. Hats off to him. Congratulations to Taylor for everything. Congratulations to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
On to this game, I think they have a hangover. And they're going to Baylor.
Do?
I do. And so we're picking a straight up pick, and I'm going to take Baylor to beat
You're going to take Baylor?
Yeah. Yep. Although Baylor really just kind of like laid an egg against West Virginia last Thursday.
Yeah, 14
But they get 2
points.
extra days, too. They got some extra time off.
They scored 17 against Texas, 14 against West Virginia. Here's the thing about Baylor. When they go up against stiff competition, and not that Oklahoma State's just a world beater or anything, but when they go against stiff competition, Oklahoma State has some really good defense. Mm-hmm. They're surprisingly really good defense in the Big 12, and Oklahoma State's one of those teams that's playing decent defense. I think they still lead the country in sacks by a good margin. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State to get after Charlie Brewer here, and
okay. I think Brewer got replaced last week against West Virginia.
Well, he's kind of been getting replaced. Yeah. They've been working with that other quarterback. I don't know if it's up here.
I just think
anyway,
playing at home, they're.
I know, but they.
And it's the same thing as Purdue beating Ohio State. Oklahoma State's going to have a hangover on that. They got to go to Baylor. Now they're thinking they're the greatest team in the world after the win, and I just think that it's the same thing as Purdue going to Michigan State the week after.
Yeah, the last 3 losses have been away, and then they beat Kansas at home. They beat Kansas State at home. Mm-hmm. But 37-34 Kansas State, I don't know.
You taking
I'll take Oklahoma State in the straight up win. I can't dress like this and not pick Oklahoma State.
All right. South Carolina is a 1-point favorite at Ole Miss. South Carolina had to come back to beat Tennessee, I believe. Tennessee was up like 21-7.
Yeah.
And they came back to win that game, which was a little bit surprising. Ole Miss has some offense. They just don't have any defense.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, South Carolina wins. It's basically a straight up win when you're picking 1 point. So I'll take South Carolina.
Yeah, it's at Ole Miss. I mean, matchup indicator, the Football Power Index has it as like a 50. I mean, it's almost straight down the middle. Yeah. And Ole Miss has some good offense. I mean, their quarterback has thrown for 2,622 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's pretty good if you guys don't know. Mm-hmm. They have playmakers. They have A.J. Brown's got 805 yards, 5 touchdowns on the year. And then the running back, Phillips, has 782 yards and 9 touchdowns. So they've got playmakers, but I think South Carolina's defense is pretty good. Mm-hmm. They look pretty balanced, so I've got them to win. Yeah. Okay. I mean, cover basically at 1 point. Yeah.
Iowa at Purdue. Purdue's 1.5 point favorite. They lost to Michigan State. Iowa lost to Penn State. However, it was just because the Iowa offense couldn't do anything because their defense and special teams were lighting up Penn State. And honestly, I'm shocked that Iowa didn't win that game, didn't pull it out. But and McSorley has been hurt a little bit. But at the end of the day, going to Purdue, I know Rondale Moore's really good. I know what Purdue did at home against Ohio State. But Iowa's defense is a hell of a lot better than Ohio State's.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to have that kind of success against Iowa. The question is can Iowa's offense do anything? They certainly couldn't do it against Penn State, but Purdue's defense is not as good as Penn State's either.
Right.
So I know Purdue's a 1.5 favorite, but I'm going to take Iowa in this one. I think they win and I mean, 1.5, it's like picking a winner. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't like looking at, last week both teams lost, but like that could have been a hangover game for Purdue. And I was just tough, man. They're just really, really tough. They're giving up 16 points a game, 84 yards on the ground. Purdue likes to pass the ball. They're getting 330 yards through the air. They look to be a little bit better, the offense, but defense is going to win this one, I think. I'll take Iowa as well.
Okay. Next one, Navy at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 13.5-point favorite. Cincinnati took overtime to beat SMU, and the previous week in overtime they lost to Temple.
Yeah.
So I'm not too confident about 13.5 when it's taken overtime to beat SMU. So that's no knock on SMU because I know I've said in the past that they're better than what their record shows and everything. But as far as this game goes, Navy, Notre Dame beat Navy by 22.
Yeah.
And we know what Notre Dame is, and I kind of thought Notre Dame would have won by 30 or more, but they didn't. So Navy, with that option offense, they keep the ball a lot, run down the clock. You have limited possessions, same as when Army played OU.
Yeah.
So I think Cincinnati wins the game. 13.5 is too big of a spread for me. I got to take Navy in the points.
Yeah, just because Navy can control the clock.
Yep.
If they get the ball in their hands, they can keep the ball for quite a while. We saw with Army earlier in the year against Oklahoma. Cincinnati might, at this point, have a better defense than Oklahoma had at that point.
Yep.
So you never know. But 13.5 against a team that you don't normally blow out. I mean, Navy's on they've lost at least their last 5 games. That's just how many I see going back.
I also think, too, for Cincinnati, those guys might be looking ahead a little bit because they're 7-1 right now, and they got Navy at home. But the next 2 weeks after that, you have South Florida, who did lose to Houston, and then you have UCF back-to-back. And that's going to determine the American Conference, at least that division. So there might be a little bit of looking ahead. And so I think that Luke Fickell will have them prepared enough to win the game. But like I said, 13.5, big. What do you think? Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to take Navy to cover.
Navy. Okay.
Not to win, but to cover. Cincinnati gets the win.
Penn State at Michigan. This is going to be a huge. Michigan is a 10-point favorite. Penn State coming off that win against Iowa. And then, Michigan is they're just rolling.
Yeah.
So they finally have got their offense moving the ball and stuff, but you know what? 10 points. This to me feels like it's going to be an old-fashioned Big Ten thump and run the ball. They're going to run Higdon a lot, or Higdon for Michigan, and they're going to run a lot. McSorley and the other guy, the running back.
Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders. I think they're going to keep the ball on the ground a lot. They'll be throwing the ball some, but there's going to be a lot of running in this game. There's going to be a lot of good defense. And I think 10 points is too big. I take Michigan for the win, but I'll take Penn State in the points as far as if I'm betting.
Yeah, this does seem like a classic, just kind of, Big Ten just seems like they have a lot of close games when both teams are, pretty good. Michigan's definitely the better team, I think. McSorley getting injured last week, but they also took care of business when he was out of the game.
Yeah.
Their backup quarterback went in, scored, ran for a touchdown.
They have somebody ready to step in next year,
right?
Which is a good thing. So
I will go against you. I'll take Michigan in the 10 points. Yeah.
Michigan to cover 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Utah is a 7-point favorite at Arizona State. Arizona State got their win. Was it USC at USC? The first to beat USC at home and at USC in a while. So Herm Edwards, congratulations on that win.
Yep.
But Utah's been on fire. And a 7-point favorite, that's not big. I know it's at Arizona State. I think Arizona State comes down a little bit after that win against USC. And I think Utah, their quarterback, that guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But
which one?
Utah's quarterback.
Oh, is it Tyler Huntley?
Yeah, I think that's him. Yeah. I mean, I watched some of their game last week, and I've watched a few of their games so far this season. And I'm telling you what, Utah's for real. They're a really good football team. So I have to take Utah to cover the 7.
Yeah, I am too. Herm Edwards just seemed like his team was lucky to get that win. He was proud of his guys, but he just it was pretty funny his press conference after. He just kind of seemed like he was kind of shocked himself, and anyway, Utah covers here.
Duke at Miami. Miami an 8-point favorite. Miami lost again. I can't remember who they lost to at this point.
And they lost.
They're just not the team we thought they were going to be.
They lost to BC, so they've lost to Virginia 2 weeks ago, and then Boston College this last week.
So that's their 3 losses.
Yeah.
And they just aren't what, Rozier's not the quarterback that's going to take them anywhere. They're not in contention this year after what we thought they were going to be last year. And, Duke just surprisingly just wins and wins.
Yeah.
I know it's at Miami, but at this point, I don't know what Miami's playing for other than some kind of bowl game. So I think with the spread being Miami 8 points, I'll take Duke in the points.
See, I think Miami could win by a touchdown. That's why I'm thinking 8 points is.
But they had a couple games they won by 1 point, and it seems they should have beat easily.
Yeah.
If you look at their schedule.
Yeah.
I don't trust Miami to cover 8 points. All it is.
Duke's last 2 games they lost at Pitt and they lost to Virginia. They beat Georgia Tech 28-14. Georgia Tech's another team that runs the option. They keep the ball out of your hands. So, and then they lost to Virginia Tech.
That they lost to Pitt, but Pitt also beat Syracuse, who's in the top 25 now.
Yeah, nice win this last week. Yeah.
So.
And Miami struggled to beat Florida State, so
I could just see this being another 1 point game.
Yeah, I'll take Duke to cover here.
Okay.
I think Miami can win this game, but
I do too.
I think that Duke covers 8 points especially.
BYU at Boise State. Boise State's a 13.5. It's home on the blue turf. I'm not going to go against Boise State. I'll take them to cover.
Yeah. All day
BYU's a good team. They are. They beat Wisconsin earlier in the year and stuff like that, but I'm not
still got Tanner Mangum.
Not going against the Smurf turf.
Yeah.
Just not doing it.
Yeah. And Rypien, however you say his last name.
Yeah.
Man, he is playing phenomenally this year. Just pull up his numbers. He's got 2,565 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Don't know if you guys know this, but that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Another quarterback that is throwing for quite a bit. So I'll take them to cover 13.5.
Okay. UCLA at Oregon. Oregon's a 13-point favorite. They flopped against Arizona. And I didn't watch the game, so I went and looked at the stats. I'm like, did Hebert or Herbert, whatever his name is, their quarterback, did he not play? And I looked at the stats. He did. Yeah. He played. And so Arizona just beat him. Khalil Tate played. And
Khalil Tate had the game of his life.
Yeah.
Here we're thinking this guy is nowhere near Heisman contention, and then he has a game against Oregon where he looks like a Heisman contender.
And I thought Oregon was the best team in the Pac-12, but they're not. That was wrong. But, 13 points is a lot. UCLA, I know they're getting better, but they're not getting that better. So I'm going to take Oregon to cover the 13.
Yeah.
It's at Oregon.
I think coming off of that loss, it just they've got the pieces that can beat UCLA.
Yeah.
And I don't think
they got the freshman running back Verdell.
Yeah,
he's really good, and their quarterback's really good.
UCLA's still just a ways off.
Yeah, they're a couple years away.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know how much they really care about this game.
Okay. So you got Oregon to cover?
Oregon to cover, yeah.
Okay, now we're getting into the big games. We went over one, Penn State, Michigan, but this is the really big games this week. So start out Notre Dame, 8-point favorite at Northwestern. Northwestern has won 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. They at times haven't been pretty with Nebraska, and I think they struggle with Rutgers. But they handed Wisconsin a good loss.
Yeah.
They're lucky that they get Notre Dame at home. They're in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I've been back and forth on this. I don't think Notre Dame is going to lose, but I think Notre Dame might be in for a dogfight here. Well, and it really just depends which Northwestern team shows up.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
Because every time we pick them to cover, they don't.
Right.
And it's...
You know what? I was going to take Northwestern to point. I'm not. I'm taking Notre Dame.
I'm taking Notre Dame, too. I think that they've got their sights set on the college football playoffs.
I think they do, too.
And I think that they're just, like you said, their wins haven't all been pretty, but they seem to just keep winning.
Yep.
And they may slip up. I mean, as an OU fan, I want them to slip up because that's
Sure.
kind of one of the teams that could help out.
If
Oklahoma.
your favorite team is in the top 8, you want Notre Dame to lose.
Yeah, I want them to lose. So, but I think that they do cover.
Yeah,
here.
if I was putting money, I would have to take Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So, okay, Missouri at Florida. Florida is a 5.5-point favorite. This is a game I should have moved up a little bit. It really isn't one of the big
And
ones.
I will say Notre Dame's got one of the best scoring defenses in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, under 20 points. That's really good.
So Florida's a 5.5-point favorite against Missouri. Missouri just kind of blew it against Kentucky.
Yeah.
They could have won that game. They should have won that game. But hand it to Kentucky for pulling it out. So as far as this one goes, they're going to Florida. They're playing in the swamp. Florida's defense, that defensive line, they are good.
Yeah.
They're just really good. Florida lost to Georgia, obviously. Fromm just had a phenomenal game.
Florida stuck with them for 3 quarters, and
Yeah.
then you text me and said Georgia's turning on the afterburners, and sure enough, they did.
Yep. So
I was wrong on that pick.
So as far as this goes, I take Florida to cover 5.5. I
I
think the spread should be a little bit bigger on that, but
Yeah. Man, this is just kind of one of those
I know
tricky
you like
ones.
Missouri.
I like their offense. I really like Drew Lock, but you said 5.5.
5.5.
I'll take Florida to cover that.
Okay.
I'll pick them for a second week in a row.
Okay, 5 games left here. Oklahoma, 10.5 at Texas Tech. This one worries me.
It
because
worries me
It's
too.
at Lubbock.
It's a
Oklahoma tends to struggle
6 or
in
7
Lubbock.
o'clock game. It's a night game.
It's a night game. They're going to be fired up in Lubbock.
They're going to be throwing tortillas or whatever they throw at people.
And Texas Tech's defense has been surprisingly good this year after the first couple weeks. But you're talking about Kyler Murray. So, Brooks is looking good. And, I mean, there's so many different pieces. The defense is getting better.
They held the last 2 weeks. They've held, and you might laugh, but Kansas State the last 2 weeks before they played Oklahoma averaged around 300 yards rushing, and their guy Alex Barnes is one of the best running backs. He was like the top running back in the Big 12, and they held him to like 28 yards or something like that, 2 yards a carry. So you cannot look at Oklahoma right now and say that their defense isn't playing any better, because last 2 weeks they've held both teams to 14 points, I think, and then under 275 yards both weeks. And yes, that was TCU who just lost to Kansas, but that was TCU just lost Turpin, Kavonte Turpin got kicked off the team before they had to go play Kansas. So they had more talent on that offense.
Yeah.
Texas Tech and that air raid. Here's the thing, though. When Ruffin McNeill was elevated to head coach for Texas Tech, he came into a system that was an air raid system. He's played, he's coached with Cliff Kingsbury. He knows all that air raid stuff. So I think if there's anybody that could go against an air raid and know it, because you saw it in practice every day, then heck yeah. Like I'm just now thinking of this stuff coming in my brain right now.
So who you got?
So I'm going to take OU to cover, because I think that Ruffin I think if there's a system that he knows and has seen a lot, it's that air raid system.
I'm going to go Texas Tech in the points. I think OU wins the game, but I really think OU gets a big scare in Lubbock, and it stays close. And so this could be a 6-point game, could be a 4-point game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that OU is going to lose the game. I'm just saying that 10.5, I'll take Texas.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it if Oklahoma hasn't been kind of figuring some things out offensively and defensively, because Kyler Murray is playing at another level. He's a human cheat code, and Kennedy Brooks is also putting it together. And he's the fact that they don't have Kennedy Brooks as the number 1 running back at this point and use Trey Sermon as you used him when Rodney Anderson was in there just blows my mind. I mean, Lincoln Riley, grab your coach by the ears and tell him, play Kennedy Brooks, because those assistant coaches get the call. They make the decision on who plays, and he leaves the trust up to them.
I kind of think it's just, Trey was the number 2. Rodney goes, and it's a matter of seniority, and they just...
Hey, he's a sophomore.
And they're not losing. I mean, they lost the one game.
They both came in the same recruiting class. So you just... I don't know. Yeah. I think Kennedy Brooks has been showing. He averaged like 18 yards a carry the other night. And it was only 5 carries, but I think he's averaging over 10 yards a carry on the year. So anyway.
Let's go to the next game. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit because I want to save these last three games. So Stanford at Washington. Washington is a 9.5-point favorite. Washington's just kind of falling apart at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But Stanford stinks. I mean, they screw me every time I pick them, so I'm not going to. Washington 9.5. I'll take them to cover.
I'm going to take Stanford. Stanford's been completing 68% of their passes. That's good for, I think, top 10 or top 15 in the country. And then just looking at it, Washington's defense, well, their defense is pretty good. I mean, they give up 301 yards total. What'd they do this last week? Remind me.
Oh,
those Pac-12 games are just too late.
I can't even remember. Honestly, I can't remember.
I fell asleep watching OSU Texas, so I had to wake up and watch replays of that. But
I don't remember what they did.
Looking at Washington, I think they lost. They lost at Cal, so I'm going to take Stanford to cover here.
Stanford to cover. Okay.
Yeah.
Big three games coming up right now. The last three we're picking here. Georgia, 9.5-point favorite at Kentucky. This determines the SEC East. The winner of this is more than likely headed. I mean, things could change. We still have some games left, but more than likely the winner of this game is going to the SEC championship game to play against either Alabama or LSU. So it's huge. It's a big game at Kentucky. Kentucky's defense has been really good.
They're allowing only 13 points a game.
Yeah, I just don't think they have enough offense to handle Georgia.
Right.
But 9.5 is a big spread, because Kentucky's been keeping everybody close.
It's at 2:30, so it's not a night game.
And Georgia struggled with LSU, and I'm telling you, Kentucky's defense is almost on par with LSU. Oh man, it's like on the fence here. I think 9.5 was a perfect spread for this because it could end up being a 9-point game or a 10-point game. But that being said, I have to make the pick. I'm going with Kentucky and the points.
I picked against Georgia last week. They proved me wrong, and I watched some of that game. Georgia, and I thought last year that there was not a better marriage of quarterback to head coach as Baker Mayfield and Lincoln Riley, and I think Jake Fromm with Kirby Smart is the perfect marriage of quarterback to head coach.
And Fromm's going to have to get it done again because Florida pretty much shut down the Georgia running game.
Yeah.
And Kentucky's going to shut down the Georgia running game. So Holyfield's not going to get a bunch of yards.
Yeah, they're allowing 108 yards a game on the ground.
So Georgia winning it's going to have to be through the air.
I'm going to take Georgia in this one.
Georgia cover. Okay, and I got Kentucky in the points. All right. West Virginia at Texas. Texas is a 2-point favorite. West Virginia smoked Baylor on Thursday night last week.
Yeah.
And then Texas lost to Oklahoma State in primetime last night. So 2 points in Texas's favor. It's basically, to me, is a dead even game. Texas is favored, I think, just because they're at home. Ultimately, I think West Virginia is the better team.
Yeah.
They have better offense for sure, and their defense isn't that bad. So I'm going to take West Virginia in this one.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because
this one, whoever loses is kind of out of the Big 12 race.
Right, because there's a 3-way tie now between West Virginia, Texas, and so with Texas losing last night, there cannot be, one of those teams is going to lose, West Virginia or Texas. They both have one conference loss.
Yeah. Unless
Unless Oklahoma lost, and there were two losses between.
Right.
But I doubt that happens. Texas kind of struggled with Baylor a little bit. They did beat them 23-17. And then West Virginia.
I mean, part of that's playing in Morgantown on a Thursday night. And it was cold and it was rainy.
That's true.
It was
That's
nasty,
very true.
And Baylor just wasn't ready for the conditions. They weren't ready for that atmosphere.
Yeah.
The cold. That was part of it. And I still think, even in a perfect situation in a dome or whatever, West Virginia would have won the game.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been as big of a blowout.
I'm going to take West Virginia because we were told for so long that Texas's defense was, tops in the Big 12. They were really, really good. Mm-hmm. And I just don't really think that's the case. I mean, Oklahoma almost came back and beat them in the second half there. Yeah. If it wasn't for a really good kicker.
Oklahoma State really exploited their weaknesses last night.
Right,
big time.
And I think that sometimes when Texas faces a little bit of adversity, they don't respond to it that well. So I think Will Greer's going to have them on their heels.
Is it Hager?
Mm-hmm, Hager.
Number 44?
Yeah.
I mean, punk ass bitch what he did at the end of the game. I'm sorry, but it just.
I watched the pre-snap stuff, and it looked like both players were kind of saying, let's go. And that Oklahoma State player that was on the wing, I think he was a wide receiver, he looked at him and he said, okay, come on. And Hager tried to tell the ref, like, hey, I'm going in for him.
But it's the end of the game. You're taking a knee.
I know, and you shouldn't be doing that.
If it was a regular play, fine.
But they both called each other out, and they tried to settle it in one play, and it got a little bit out of hand. But I don't really look at Hager as like, some kind of thug or anything. But I think it was just two players at the end of a really emotional game that just were like, all right, let's see who the bigger man is, and they settled it right there, and then they squashed it in the next play, downed it, and the game was over. So, but I've got West Virginia to cover here.
Okay. Last game, the big one. Alabama, 15-point favorite at LSU. LSU wins. I'm taking LSU.
You could not wait for this game to come up.
Their defense is going to finally put the brakes on Tua. Finally. That secondary is awesome. They have a great run defense. Now the offense is going to struggle a little bit. Burrow's only completing like 50% of his passes.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses, but those receivers have dropped a lot of passes this year.
Well, that's part of it.
That's part of it, I know. And then, but he makes the plays when he needs to make the plays.
Yeah.
And so that's what matters is you're making the throw when you need to make the throw. They're very much a pro-style offense where they run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
They don't really throw much. And Burrow has got it done with his feet when he needed to. He's gotten first downs.
Yeah.
And I think LSU has just enough on offense to get it done. And I think their defense finally puts the brakes on that Alabama offense. I'm taking LSU straight up to win it.
I do not think that LSU will win. I'm conflicted on this one because 15 to me is kind of, I feel like people are looking, Alabama has the top scoring offense in the country, and it's not even close. I mean, the next team is Oklahoma, and it's like a 7-point difference or something like that. It's kind of crazy because Alabama had I think they're the 27th ranked strength of schedule. LSU has the second. And so you look at Alabama's schedule and you're like, who have they really played? But the ranked teams that LSU has beaten have started to lose. Yeah. Auburn, Miami, so it's kind of, you look at that and you're like, well, how good were those teams really? I know they beat them when they were ranked, but it was like we talked about last week. It's like, if they end the year not ranked, it's like, well, you didn't really have any ranked wins. So that's what kind of baffles me. We'll have to wait and see what the selection committee says about the rankings this next week. But
don't be surprised. Everybody's going to disagree with it. Everybody's going to hate it. But I've said this before last year. I'll say it again. This committee says one thing and does something else.
Every year. And I'm telling you right now, if you think that they're not thinking about the impact of college football and money,
you're wrong. So don't be shocked if LSU ends up ranked number 2 in the first college football playoff rankings, so that this game this week is a 1 versus 2. Because then you have mad, huge ratings through the roof, as good as a national championship game, and it's on CBS in prime time. And they know one of them's going to lose and fall. So don't be shocked if LSU jumps Clemson and Notre Dame just for this week.
Yeah.
Because the winner's going to be number 1 in the rankings the following week.
Yeah, so I'm just looking back. 2014, let's look at it. Alabama 20, LSU 13. 2015, sorry. Alabama wins 30-16. 2016, I think that was 10-0. Yeah, Alabama wins 10-0. 2017, last year, Alabama wins 24-10. So that's 14 points right there. But like, I look at it and I'm like, this game is always close.
Always close.
And that was when LSU didn't have as good of a team.
Yep.
I don't think that they win. I think Alabama wins this because I think that they're just too good offensively. Their defense has taken a little bit of a dip this year. They're still a top 20 defense, but every other year they've got like a top 5 defense, top 3, top 1.
Sounds like you're going to take LSU in the points.
I'm taking LSU to cover 15.
But you think that Alabama wins the game?
Yes. If it drops any lower than that, then, I'd take Alabama for sure. I think that they could win by 2 touchdowns, but that's not what the spread is at right now, and that's not when we're picking it. So at 15 points, I'm going to take LSU because I think the game will be close. It's always close. Always close. So, yep.
Go Tigers.
LSU with the points there.
Go Tigers.
Alabama with the win. Don't get it twisted. I've got Alabama winning the game, but I think LSU.
He knows he's a man.
I'm a man. I'm not 40. I'm 33.
All right, that's it. We're going to wrap it up.
Quick show today.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to us if you haven't already.
Yeah. Be safe on Halloween too.
Safe on Halloween.
Don't be stupid.
Follow us on Twitter, and happy Halloween.